Hey guys, welcome back to another episode. It is Monday, December the 10th. It's about 3:30. Today I wanted to talk about bulking. So when I first started my journey into bodybuilding, it was very hard to find decent, good information about bulking besides basically just to eat more. I'm not that kind of person. I want to get some specifics. I want to understand why. I want to understand the how. So this is everything that I learned while I was prepping and doing my bulk, doing it in the most specific and accurate way that I can find. In the last video, we did talk about our lean body mass, our BMR or RMR, and our TDEE. When you are doing a bulk, basically you are just eating in a surplus of your TDEE, eating more than you expend. That's it. For each person, how they do it is going to be a little bit different. Some people choose just a certain number, say like a 500 calorie rule, a 200 calorie rule, or even a 100 calorie rule. Some people use percentages, which is what I did, and others just eat everything in sight. I want to do this in the most accurate way for my body, and I want to make sure that what I'm doing is limiting the amount of fat that I am putting on while I am trying to gain muscle. As much as we wish that we could just go to the gym eating in a surplus all the time, that we would all end up being these fantastical meatheads, that isn't how it works. In reality, muscle mass is built very, very slowly. For a man, it is typically 1 to 2 pounds per month. For a woman, 1/2 pound to a pound per month. And that is not something that occurs like that over the course of your life, over the course of the entire time that you're lifting. It obviously isn't like that if you've ever experienced newbie gains or you've started to age as you've been going through your bodybuilding journey. As you age, that decreases. So when we're talking about doing these surpluses and how much mass we actually hope to build, let's go ahead and be real with ourselves with our genetic potential and be honest about what we are trying to do with ourselves. I went ahead and wrote out the calculations for my LBM, my RMR, and my TDEE. Using, particularly for the RMR, using the J.J. Cunningham equation because that's the one that seems to work the best for me. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that really quick, taking the camera off of me. So here we go, calculating our lean body mass. So taking our actual weight and converting that into kilograms and taking note of our body fat percentage. Now we do need to change our body fat percentage to a decimal. In this particular case, it is a decimal of a percent. Doesn't matter. So all you have to do to change a percent to a decimal is to take the decimal place and move it 2 steps to the left. So 14% would end up being 0.14. So let's get into here. For my lean body mass, we are going to calculate using my weight in kilograms times my body fat percentage. Here's what that equals. And we're going to subtract that amount from our weight that we actually have. This is our lean body mass. Now I converted that back into pounds because later on we will use that. So here we go, my lean body mass. Now calculating our BMR or RMR, again I'm using the J.J. Cunningham equation. That is my preferred method. So here we go, 22 times my LBM plus 500. So here's the actual math there. Ta-da! Okay, so that is my resting metabolic rate. There we go. Now to calculate our TDEE, take your activity level from that previous chart that I shown you. I'm going to go ahead and put that up now. Now I am not an exact moderate, but I'm certainly not a full-on heavy, so I chose 1.6 times your BMR that you just calculated, or your RMR, that's fine too. Here we go. That is your TDEE. That is your total daily energy expenditure for me in particular. So let's go ahead and calculate our gains. When we are talking about muscular gains, we do have to take our goal lean body mass that is realistic and subtract our current lean body mass. That is what you are hoping to gain. Now again, muscle is gained very slowly over time, and it is not a certain set rate that does vary over time. To calculate the number of months that you want to bulk, take your change in pounds and divide that by your average gains in pounds. And that is going to equal how many months that I'm going to be bulking. But, big but here, talking about genetic potential, not trying to delve too deeply into this, but still keeping it in a way that most people can understand. As much as I wish that I was going to be 150 pounds in my lean body mass, that's probably not going to happen. Every person in my family is incredibly lean, string bean lean. So I'm probably not going to look anything like Arnold. Okay, definitely no Dana Lynn Bailey going on in my family. But what is the best that I can possibly do for me that is realistic? Probably not going to hit 150 or even 140, but I can probably do on that lower end. So I went ahead and calculated for my genetic potential an idea of what my genetic potential would probably be based on the gains that I want to make. So let's go ahead and look at that. To calculate the amount of time, taking your goal lean body mass, subtracting your current lean body mass, that equals your change. Taking your change in pounds divided by your average gains per month, and this is going to be your approximate months of bulking. So here's showing an idea here. If I wanted to be 140, then that means a 31 pound change. 135 is a 26 pound change. 130 is 21 pound change. Or 125 as my lean body mass is a 16 pound change. So of those, what is most realistic for someone like me with these tiny little arms? My intensity level has gone down, my age is going up, my hormones are changing, so my gains are probably going to be on the lower end. So, calculating for that, I did this lower end spectrum. That's not to say that this is impossible or anything, but for me, it's probably improbable for the amount of time that I actually want to spend bulking. 32 months is what we calculated in this particular one. That would equate to, let's say, about 3 years. If you know that on average you tend to take a week-long vacation every year, and you do that every year, why are you not calculating that into your bulking cycle or even your cutting cycle? So in my particular case, I know that I have an average of 2 bad flare-ups a year that take me out of the gym for a month each. And then right after a flare-up, I typically get sick for about a week. Okay, so a month and a week out of the gym twice a year means that I need to really be seriously thinking about how long I'm going to bulk for. Because 3 years is probably not going to be enough. Calculating for setbacks is a really good thing to do because it keeps you on track. If you plan for the worst, but you're hoping for the best, and you're making sure that you're putting in your due diligence here, you have a higher chance of success. So I like to calculate in my setbacks, especially since mine are so massive in comparison to other people's. So I went ahead and I did the calculations for those. I'm going to go and show you that. I have an average of 4 weeks twice per year, 1 week right after the fact twice. Altogether, let's calculate that in here. So 43.5 months of bulking. That comes out to about 3.625 years of bulking for me to be able to gain 16 pounds. And I have to say that's fairly realistic because I've done that. I think it was 2 years bulking to gain an extra 10 pounds. If you know that there's something you need to calculate in, plan for the worst so that you can reach success in a much easier fashion. You've already planned for it, so now you're ready. As far as calories now you know how long. How about your calories? As I said at the very beginning, you may be able to do this by just using a rule of a certain 100 number of calories. If that works for you, by all means do it. I'm going to roll my eyes at this one. Okay. If you are comfortable doing a dirty bulk, by all means do it. I personally don't like the idea of not eating nutrient-dense foods and to just throw everything into my mouth. That sounds really dirty. Anyways, to just throw everything I see in my mouth trying to gain muscle seems like a really poor way of doing it, personally, because I want to take in exactly what I need and do it with nutrient-dense foods that I know are feeding my muscles, that I know are feeding my lifestyle, my vitality, so that I feel good and I wake up feeling good every day. Now, granted, dealing with my autoimmune disorder, that also means that I can't have a lot of junk food. I can't sit there and just eat everything in sight because I will get sick. So, again, me rolling my eyes, please don't take that personally. That's just my personal opinion on that. The other method is to use a percentage method. Yes, this is more math. I'm so very sorry. I know everybody was like, I thought this was going to be easy. What the hell? So when we're talking about a surplus, all we're talking about is eating more than you expend. So making sure what your intake is more than your expenditure. Your TDEE is your total daily energy expenditure. What you actually eat in a day is your intake. They are not the same thing. So when we're talking about doing a percentage, again, taking that decimal point and moving it over 2 points, a common percentage that many people use when bulking is 15%. This is a good percent for most people, not everyone, to be able to be in a surplus, to gain muscle, and limit the amount of fat. Now, not everybody is going to fit perfectly within that 15% mark. I know for my very long bulks that usually about 10 to 12% is more than enough. This isn't an exact science. This is an art. Each person is different. The longer your bulk, the slower you can go with lower percentages while still gaining muscle and limiting the amount of fat that you're building. With that said, if you are a hard gainer, don't be surprised if you're on the upper range of this, maybe even more. So let's see this in action really quick on my calories based on my TDEE. A slight surplus, still a fairly slight surplus, getting in a little more. Okay, now we're hitting it. Now we're really going for it. All of these are acceptable numbers for a surplus. It just depends on how much fat you're willing to gain to be able to gain muscle. Okay, if you want to eat in a slight surplus, you're probably going to gain muscle much slower rate, but you're also going to be limiting the amount of fat that you're gaining as well. If you eat in the higher range, don't be surprised if you gain more fat. But how can you tell which is fat and which is muscle? So we talked about stepping on the scale during the last video, I believe, and finding out our BMR, our LBM, our TDEE, all of that. It's also a good idea to continually step on the scale when you're doing a bulk or a cut, doesn't really matter. Because since muscle builds so slowly, if you see a huge jump in weight, that's probably not muscle. Like, let's just cut the shit here, let's be real. If you see a huge jump in weight, that is probably fat. That's probably fat gain. So how do you make sure that you're building muscle? Okay, well, unless you're getting a DEXA scan. My easiest way that I did over the course of many different bulks.
Even though, yes, I know I'm small, everybody always gives me shit for that. I'm an autoimmune disorder, back off.
Before you decide to raise your calories, step on the scale. See what your weight is. See what your body fat percentage is. Okay, take note of that somewhere. The next time you step on the scale, I prefer to do at the driest I can be in the early morning, after I've gone to the bathroom, yes, number 1 and 2, without having anything to drink. Check your weight, check your body fat percentage. That is probably the closest to you accurately that you're going to get. Pick one day a week, usually at that same day, that same time, and step on the scale. Do the same thing again after you start your surplus. And watch for small changes. If it's a slower rate, you're probably building more muscle. But you are also going to be putting on fat because you are in a surplus. Do that every week and see what your changes are over time. If they're slow, subtle changes, it's probably muscles. If it's very quickly, that's probably fat. What happens when you stall? There is an ebb and a flow to gaining muscle. It's not always some linear progression, it's beautiful, and it's always continuing in the same method. I mean, It's not like that. It just doesn't do like that. Sometimes your body has other shit it's got to take care of besides just building you some fucking muscle so you can look hot. You've hit a stall. It's been more than a week, and you've done this checking yourself on the scale, you know, the same day, same time at your driest, and nothing's changing. Raise your calories slightly. I said, and I am at a slow bulk going in a surplus, that I go about 10 to 12%. That is because sometimes 10% is not enough, and I hit a stall. So then I do have to raise it just slightly. Pick one variable and change it. Are you adding in 1 to 2% extra, or are you going to reduce the amount of cardio you're doing? Maybe increase your intensity. There's a lot of different variables that you can do here, but pick one and see the changes over time. Then do it again. Each person is different. I know that this isn't some set in stone black and white thing that you want to hear. This is exactly the percentage extra of calories you need to be eating. That's not how it works, and I'm sorry. Consistency over time is key. If you stay consistent by eating in a surplus, not too much, not too little, over time, keeping up with your workouts, getting the very nutrient-dense food in your life, and continually doing those things over and over again, you are going to see progress. So, how do we bulk? Find our TDEE, add a surplus of calories to our intake that is more than our TDEE. Keep up with our workouts, staying consistent, keep up with our diet, eating very nutrient-dense foods. Over time, check on your changes. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was honest, and I hope it was incredibly accurate, because that's what I really, really hope for here. And it helps you guys, because that's what I want. I want you to be able to bulk on your own without needing a coach to do it, but with limiting your fat gains while increasing your muscle gains. So with that said, don't forget to never stop improving. I have a lot of shit to do today, so I will check in with you guys later, and have a great day. Bye.